Okay, so we're here watching round 2, game 2 of our Clans of Turkey or Gameday, the Abzan mirror match, Ushin Gaffney versus Steve Robertson.
So in game 1 we saw Ushin gain an early advantage with Nissa and just carry that advantage through to the end. Steve was never really able to get back into it. So we'll see how this game goes after they've sideboarded. So some of the cards I might have now are Thoughtseize. Some let's run at main, some let's run at side. And that is is that 3 coursers?
3 coursers.
Interesting. So I think it's safe to say already that we're going to have a grindy game. Ushin has no threats. He's going to be able to generate a good bit of advantage with the coursers, but he won't be playing anything for a while. Even that Caryatid is a turn 3 play because with the 2 tap lands. Yeah, I think the charm is right there.
Yeah, I mean, triple redundancy on the Corsair Crucifix. I don't really see the point in taking one of them, especially when you're as removal heavy as Steve is.
And he could take the Caryatid there, but given that currently it's only going to be a turn 3 play anyways, I don't think it doesn't hurt Ushin that much. The Abzan Charm is excellent for getting rid of the rocks, rhinos, etc. So post board, these guys have access to End Hostilities. I know Steve has Stain the Mind. Possibly for Siege Rhino. The deck, it doesn't fall apart without Siege Rhino, but it's definitely the reason you're in these colours.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that we didn't see a single Siege Rhino.
Yeah, it was quite I've lots of people have been saying that they come in packs, so you either get a bunch of them or none of them. And from my experience, it is true. Every games I've played, if my opponent has a turn 4 Rhino, they'll also have a turn 5 and a turn 6 Rhino. Which is brutal. So Steve took the Courser there? Yeah.
Yeah, so. Took the Courser with the Despise, and now we're just seeing another Courser from Ushin's hand, pretty much being as effective as it can be, coming out when you're short on mana to reveal a land off the top, which gets you 1 card deeper into your library.
I like to point out to Ushin that Caves of Coilus does not come in tapped. It does gain life, but
I can't imagine he has a 1-drop.
I imagine, I would imagine he thought it was a Temple of Silence, but he didn't scry, so he's probably he just forgot.
Steve cracks fetch land there.
So he should be on 19 now. He does not have a Courser in play. So he's going to play a Rhino, but he should be on 20. Oh, he's writing it down, not using the dice. Okay.
Yeah, he's keeping a nice pad off the side.
I was worried for a moment there. So I think we're going to see the start of a quite grindy game. So Ushin can either now spend his turn getting rid of the Rhino, or playing his own Rhino. And personally, I prefer just playing his own Rhino and just getting it out there. Steve's then can't really profitably attack. However, then we're into this tempo game. If Ushin plays his Rhino and then Steve has a removal spell, Steve now gets to attack with his Rhino, and his Courser is probably not blocking. He could throw it away because I know he still has the 3rd one in hand.
Yep, still has 1 more.
But the Rhinos will just end up staring each other down.
Yeah, and you probably don't throw the Courser away this early in the game. And since Ushin's Rhino just undid the drain and gain effect of Steve's Rhino, I don't think his life total is in any way threatened at the moment.
Especially if Steve has a follow-up Rhino here, which don't do it. if he does, I think this game will go quite long. Because once the board gets like that, it's too late to start 1-for-1ing, until you can cast 2 spells in a turn. It's just going to the board's going to get clogged up.
We'll see what comes down now.
Well, Ushin does have the Elspeth on top, so on these kind of boards, if Steve does play another Rhino, it functions as kind of a reset. But that's why Wingmate Rock's so good, and a lot of people have been comparing it negatively to Broodmate Dragon from Alara. And Broodmate Dragon, it's 1 more expensive in 3 colors to make 2 4/4s. Whereas Wingmate Rock is in 1 color to make 2 3/4s, and it's not even all the time. But at the same time, Wingmate Rock in this particular standard is definitely better in that it avoids the Elspeth minus.
Yeah.
So in these kind of boards, even you might be able to get rid of all the Rhinos, but the rocks will still be there at the end of the day to clean up the mess.
But Steve, not without a source of 2 power threats. He has the Courser on the board now, a Sorin Solemn Visitor coming down next turn.
Yeah, and like as we were saying, if you watched game 1 of this match, Sorin is one of the ways you can break through these board stalls. Steve can easily attack with his, if he pluses Sorin, with his Rhino. Oshin can double block, so it's not necessarily profitable, but it is one way to break up the board stall. So if Oshin's attacking here, I think it spells one clear thing. That is the Wingmate Rock. Are you a fan of double blocking here, or do you just like the bounce?
I think if I'm... Now, I was going to mention the possibility of Vile Blight there, because this means that Oshin can clear the opposing Siege Rhino and just play Elspeth for tokens next turn.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I think Oshin forgot that Vile Blight would affect his own Rhino there, though, as well.
Oh, yeah.
However, in that case, neither of them should be dead, because... They should still
have 2 toughness and only take 1 damage.
It turns them both into 1/2s, which would then bounce. So both of those should still be on the field. They should not be dead, unless I missed something. But as far as I can tell, Steve should know this.
Yeah, it's the tricky thing about Vile Blight functioning on name. I've seen Elspeth come up enough times in mirror matches to know.
It's annoying watching this in retrospect, seeing something like that has a big effect on the game. The 2 rhinos that shouldn't be dead being dead, but there's nothing we can do about it. So anyway, so Steve played Sorin minus to make a vampire. It's hard to tell. I think Oshin still has another rhino, I believe, and the Elspeth. So Elspeth's not particularly great on this board, just because the vampires can get over and cancel out the damage from the soldiers, anyways.
Yeah.
I think Sorin is definitely best against Abzan. I run it in Mardu, and it's fantastic against Abzan. But it's awful in the mirror against Mardu. It's the first thing to come out. It's just Crackling Doom, just completely gets rid of it, negates all advantage. Okay, so Steve will draw his Sandstep Citadel and reveal Wingmate Rock. Okay,
so Steve is definitely getting more flying threats onto the board than Oshin. And handily enough, all of these are staying at 3 power less, so they are getting around an Elspeth minus.
Exactly, yeah. Now, what is Steve's follow-up? The Rhino can easily smash in against Sorin if Steve has no second play, and he doesn't. Okay, so you can only assume Steve now has a removal spell for the Rhino.
Yeah, either that or he just doesn't care about his Courser crew fix too much at this point in the game.
Oh well, even here at the mid stage of the game, it's still going to be able to generate little bits of advantage. Like that Wingmate Rock could be 1 card lower. It's subtle, but it's definitely an edge in the game.
Well, we'll see now whether he has the removal. Yep.
Yeah, so he has the other end.
Another end.
Which is particularly good against Siege Rhino, because it's exiled, I think. It is not unusual for these lists to run Whip of Erebos, and you can't whip back once it's from exile.
Elspeth hits the board, generates some soldiers.
Yeah, so we're starting to see kind of a board stall here. Neither player really has a way to deal with the opposing board.
I think... there's another end.
Yeah. Well, I imagine Steve here is going to either... I would imagine he's going to attack the Elspeth. Yeah, he's going to attack the Elspeth and then Wingmate Rock. One thing I would have done, however, is I would have attacked first and then play the Wingmate Rock and then plus. And that would then give your 2 Wingmate Rocks the +1 as well. So there'd be 4/4s. However, in that situation, actually no, that's an awful play. Elspeth could just minus to blow up both of the rocks. So that's an awful play.
That is true.
Yeah.
And also, as Elspeth stands now, like on Oshin's turn, she'll obviously pump herself back up to 3.
Yeah.
And so Steve only has to devote a single 3-power creature to killing her next turn. But if he'd not plus Soren before the attacks, she'd still be on 3 now. She'd go to 4,
he'd have to
and
devote
then
2.
He'd have to devote 2 creatures to her destruction. Just getting Oshin just a little bit of incremental card advantage.
Okay, so Steve is out of cards. Now, what he can do is next turn he can plus Soren and get a lot of life from the attacking rocks and his vampire, and then once the damage goes through, kill Elspeth, and then still have the other end to deal with Oshin's next threat. So, I like Steve's board currently. I think is favourable.
Yeah, the advantage of air superiority.
That's the problem with this matchup, though, is it can change so dramatically. If Oshin attacks with his 3/1/1s and then plays a Wingmate Rock, then in order for Steve to bash through, he'll have to plus to attack with his rocks, and then if Oshin can protect his Elspeth, he can then minus to kill the rocks. But this board can just change so easily and get grindy. Okay, so we're going to make 3 more soldiers. His Naruto soldiers. Okay. I'm just going to pass the turn back. Okay. So, Oshin could have a couple of things here. It is not unlikely for him to have a... Oh, okay. I'm surprised by that from Steve. I think you can easily just attack with plus and attack with your flyers. The Abzan deck has removal, sure, but it doesn't have any flash creatures.
So we've seen an Abzan Charm there to exile target creature power 3 or greater.
Yeah.
One of the Wingmate Rocks is gone.
But yeah, I think I dislike that line from Steve. I think that other end could be important later on.
Yeah, I think it's a better card in the hand, and
like if Nissa comes off the top now, Steve has a downfall, but that wasn't well. I suppose it was guaranteed he was able to see it. But any time you can another Elspeth, yeah,
that's another Elspeth. Yeah, I think if even if you're worried about tricks from Oshin, I think it's better to attack first and see how the attack step
exactly
goes.
Yeah, and if he's worried about tricks, he can send more than just one creature at the Elspeth, and then Oshin's going to have to devote multiple removal spells to save his Elspeth, and then even if he does that, Steve can just then use his removal spell at that point. But I think if you're able to remove a planeswalker with your creatures rather than your removal spells, it's definitely advantageous.
We're seeing a lot of creatures attacking here, presumably attacking Soren.
Yeah, so Soren is going to fall, continuing to be solemn. What was that, like did he try to attack with the Courser and then Steve said something? No, I think he just changed his mind. Okay.
Well, I think he realised that Soren was dead.
Was dead anyways, yeah.
Just with the soldiers.
That's 5 in the air. And Steve has a downfall in hand. So Oshin will get 1 activation from this Elspeth if that's the route he wants to go. But on this board, like he'll have a lot of soldiers, but he's gonna need more than that to be able to get past taking 5 a turn.
Well, it's a little bit of a threat.
End hostilities is what you want, just to clear. Like I'm fine with losing the soldiers and my Courser carrier to have enough mana at this point. And if you have no way to deal with the, it doesn't even flip it properly before it goes into play. Garrick, okay.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, most Abaddon lists don't run it. Oshin, however, runs it just as a one-of. A lot of the time it'll come down and do nothing. But I've played against him once before, and once he's on the board and you have no answer for it, he just pluses and removes your planeswalkers one by one.
3/3 Death Touch Beast every turn is nice as well.
So Steve is going to take 6, and Oshin will lose a soldier. And I can't imagine. In Oshin's seat, I would just say go. If you play an Elspeth, it's just going to die to downfall anyways. And really, in this spot, the 3/1/1s aren't going to matter. So I like passing go, and yeah, just because otherwise you're just playing like Steve just gets to use his mana efficiently, and ooh. So these are the kind of draws that will definitely be interesting. Okay, so Wingway is dead, Steve.
So 5 damage in the air from Steve's flyers.
So Oshin must be fairly low at this point. He's taken 5 in the air now 3 times, is it?
I think so.
Yeah, because he took it. The first attack was when Oshin Abzan charmed the rock, and he took 5 and 5 and 5. So he's taken at least 15.
Yeah. And those siege rhinos were a long time ago.
Yeah, and I believe there were 3 of them, I think. Steve played 1 and Oshin played 2, I think.
So he really only would have netted 3 life off that.
Yeah, so he's on minimum 8.
See if Garrick is going to come down now.
Well, you think Garrick in this spot could just perform as a 7 mana removal spell, but I'm not a particular fan of that line.
We'll see. Garrick gives you life equal to the toughness of
Yeah,
the
I believe it
destroyer?
is -3 destroy target creature, and you gain life equal to its toughness. So yeah,
Okay.
so that's exactly what I'm going to see. He's going to just use it as a 7 mana removal spell.
And he gains 4 life.
Yeah.
Which might be a priority for him in this situation.
Well, Steve now at this point, because he knows Oshin has the Elspeth and he has the downfall in hand, so I think it's a very difficult choice which you use it for, because if he downfalls the Garrick, he then has to deal with an Elspeth. Although he will be the first one with an Elspeth. So, but if he doesn't downfall the Garrick and then he plays his own Elspeth, Garrick can just plus to destroy the Elspeth on the turn back.
Well, he does have a 2/2 flying vampire. So unless Oshin has
Oh,
a,
of course,
has a
sure,
kill
yeah.
spell, that vampire will just fly over and kill Garrick itself.
Yeah, I imagine that's what will happen. Both players scrying temples to the bottom and then revealing land all the same. So yeah, that's the play we see. Garrick falls, and Steve is now going to play Elspeth with a downfall backup for Oshin's Elspeth. And we can see, like all games so far, we've seen Abzan's game plan, which is just 1-for-1ing, leading up into powerful spells. But the problem when they just go toe to toe is you get into these kind of boards. One player will play an Elspeth, it'll die. The other player will play an Elspeth, and it'll die, and so on and so forth. To the extent, and especially with triggers like Siege Rhino, that the life totals don't really change.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of different life gain triggers at work between Siege Rhino, Courser of Crufix, Sorin pluses,
and Wingmate Rock as
and
well.
Wingmate Rock triggers as well. I suppose that's why we've seen some pro Magic players actually running a Jani's Pride Mate in Abzan.
Yeah, there's been a couple. I think it's a little too cute, but I've definitely, like, it was on SCG, and I can't remember the name of the player, but he had a 6/6 Pride Mate by turn 3, I think. I think Fleece Mane is just a better 2-drop though. The ability to make it monstrous, and you can, if you board and end hostilities, then you can end hostilities and just leave Fleece Mane alive, or Dune Blast and effectively have 2 creatures stay alive through the event. So Steve drew a land there, was it? I believe, from his Courser. I think he drew a swamp. So he's got swamp and downfall on hand. Okay, so as we expected that today.
No, that's going to roll up. Just make more soldiers to be on the defense. So Steve has 6 soldiers defending him right now, plus the 2 coursers.
And unless Oshin can find a removal spell. Interesting. Okay. It's no good at getting rid of the Elspeth though. So we're going to gain 2 life. I believe Oshin said go back to 19. But I would have thought he's taken way more damage. But I suppose like Courser's been generating a lot of, like he's had a turn 3, so it's at least 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 10 life that he's gained from that. So
yeah, and double life gain triggers for every turn where he's had 2 of them in play. So
okay, so he passes turn, unknown guard, and wingmate. Okay. So I guess at this point that neither player has profitable blocks, or profitable attacks, I should say. Sorry, what am I talking? Steve has the advantage of being able to attack for 2 every turn.
Yeah.
Until Oshin can find a flyer.
But as long as Oshin hits a land drop every turn, he negates that 2 damage.
Exactly.
But I think we're going to see the Doom Blast now. So.
Well, what he can do is he can Doom Blast to keep a Courser alive.
Mm-hmm.
And then be able to hit the Elspeth for 6 between the Fleece Mane and the Courser.
Yeah. That'll do quite a bit of damage.
That'll also negate the Wingmate Rock won't be able to come down next turn. He'll just have to deal with 3 more tokens from the Elspeth. Well, I don't think it'll matter, Steve. I think he's going to be Doom Blasting. Every time I see the dice, it's just extravagant.
He's just trying to convey the gravity of having 9 soldiers on the field plus an Elspeth on 7 loyalty.
Personally, I prefer the massive dice on Elspeth. But yeah, I would be surprised if Oshin didn't Doom Blast, primarily because he's dead on the swing back. Steve can just minus the Elspeth ultimate. Given all his creatures +2/+2 and flying, and just swing back for substantially lethal, I would imagine. So yeah, he's going to make the play I suggested a moment ago. He's going to keep his Courser alive. Everything else will die except Fleece Mane, because it has indestructible, and Elspeth should go down to 1 in just a moment. Yep. And Oshin is now out of cards.
Oh, don't reveal the top cards.
Yeah, that shouldn't be revealed.
I think somebody tried to intervene to stop that happening, but didn't
yeah,
get
I've
there in
taken
time.
to, even though it's my opponent's responsibility to remember, I've taken to stopping them. It's just irksome to have to bring in another, like a judge ruling or whatever.
Can become habit or...
So Oshin drew the downfall. Actually, I'm not sure if I prefer... Like, what do you think of instead last turn is attacking C for 6 and then downfalling Elspeth this turn? Or would you rather save that for possibly the Wingmate Rock? Because he's not able to make any headway now with the Elspeth, and Elspeth can just tick back up again.
He knew the downfall was coming, and it was revealed.
Yeah, he saw it from the Courser before he
yeah,
played the Doom Blast.
I suppose a bit more headway against Steve would have been worthwhile. I suppose
Because he's doing it anyways now.
Yeah.
So he missed out on 6 damage last turn.
Yeah.
Like, I think once you've committed, it's just a waste of an attack at that point.
Yeah. And there's not much an Abzan deck can do to stop you downfalling their Elspeth.
Yeah, there's no way they can prevent it. So Steve is back, taken to the skies, and Oshin he doesn't draw anything relevant. He has a Courser in hand and a Caryatid on top. And this is what I was saying at the start of game 1, is that the aggro deck has better top decks. At this point in the game, Courser it's not good to draw, and Caryatid's even worse. You don't want an 0-3 blocker at this point. Sometimes you may just want it as a chump blocker, but it's not going to be getting you any closer to winning the game. And in this situation, like, the aggro deck swaps out the Caryatids and the Coursers for Anaphenzas, and has both Rakshasas and Fleece Manes, all of which, even on this board, would not be irrelevant. But so Steve's going to just take the 4, choosing not to block with the Caryatid. One interesting thing about Fleece Mane is that in its original design, it was supposed to have trample as well as indestructible and hexproof.
Wow.
But they decided it was too much. Okay, so there's sideboard tech coming in. I imagine it's in there for whip rather than courser, but it is a handy way to get rid of it if necessary.
Yeah. Yep. One of the handy little modes you often see on charms, the fact that they can destroy enchantments.
Yeah.
And that is going to be the end of the game.
I believe that is a draw.
That is a draw.
Time was just called, unfortunately. You can see there the dice is turn 5. So this is one of the bad things about the matchup. It can go to time in grindy matches. So Ushin will win 1-0, having won the first game. So it is unfortunate, but that's the way the mirror goes sometimes. So
good to see that you got to see pretty much every play that the top tier deck can make, though.
Yeah, so and as well as that, both games kind of showed the different ways the mirror can go. The first game, Ushin got an early advantage and was able to ride that to victory, and then in this game they just 1-for-1 back and forth. And I'd say if this game was able to go on, I think at this point Steve has the advantage. But the game just dragged on too long, and unfortunately that happens. So.
Okay, right. So that is the end of our match, and we will see you guys next time.